Afternoon there. Just want to make this as quick as possible. It's a response to a video I watched on YouTube by uh, it's a couple of content creators, influencers. Fucking hate that word. Um, Midwinter Minis. Watched a lot of their videos. I have left a comment on the video that I saw. Um, to make this as quick as possible, um, they brought out a video. They usually bring out videos about 40k, painting guides, game guides, battle reports, that kind of stuff, hobby updates. Um, and I enjoy watching YouTube in general as a form of relaxation. Don't really do it to learn anything new. Sometimes I do. Sometimes, if I want to paint a certain thing, um, or if I want to find out a uniform color kind of thing for historical games, or I'll use YouTube as one of many ways of researching. Um, it's you know Without going too much detail about how I research stuff as a historian or as a gamer or as anything else. You've got to research lots of different things, lots of different sources. You can't just do one thing. You can't just if you go on a ghost hunt, you can't just ask the owner about history because they don't know, or they've been told lies, or they are making lies up. You know, um, Likewise, you can read one book and it might not be accurate, it might not be true. You can read one source on the internet, regardless of how old that source is, and it might not be true. It might not be accurate. Um, so yeah, you got to take multiple sources to to become more educated. Really, more research yourself, do your own research. Sorry. Um, and Midwinter Minis brought out a video, um, and it was all about. I can't remember how they titled it. I think they changed the title a couple of times, um, and it was what happens when somebody is the Nazis or something along those lines, with regards to historical wargaming. What a terrible, terrible video it was. Cringeworthy in the extreme. Um, First of all, like I said, research wise, no research whatsoever. Not even into, I mean, they bought two tanks, so they're probably just given, it was one of those kind of channels that given all kinds of stuff. They were probably just given two tanks by Warlord Games and the Band of Brothers starter set. They showed the starter set. They hadn't even opened the box probably, but they had that and two tanks. They had a German Panzer IV, and a Sherman, Allied Sherman. And they painted both of them up. The main fella, I don't know his name. He and his partner, she paints as well. I think she painted the Sherman. He painted the Panzer IV. They were painted very nice. They looked very nice. They had mud effects and things like that, rust effects. Um, you know, uh, the camo schemes weren't exactly the most accurate that I could have, seen. They had like the old Panzer Grey, blue grey, for the Panzer IV, which bit iffy. They could have, done one of the more elaborate German Panzer colour schemes, which would have been brilliant for someone like that, someone with their skills. They could have done that. Didn't. It was very, very bog standard kind of thing. The Sherman was done the olive drab and the green kind of colour. I believe that the Russians may have painted a few tanks that way of the Shermans. The Allies maybe had something like that in the Pacific, maybe at a push. But it just seemed like a garish kind of for Sherman. The colour scheme should have been the opposite way around. Maybe a dull all one colour for the Sherman, probably olive drab, and then something a bit more camouflagey for the Panzer IV. But they didn't do that. Two very basic jobs, very, very basic. Looked all right, yeah, fair enough. But they painted those up. Might take them a day to build, paint, you know, film the whole thing. But they talk like they were absolute experts on bolt action, World War II, and historical gaming in general. And they've got a hell of a lot of followers because of the 40k link. And like I posted in the comments section, it was more like an advert for Games Workshop, because it was more like, oh, you don't want to get into historical gaming because people are going to be Nazis, and you know what, they're going to be Nazis because, and they said Nazis all the time except once they said Germans, when they referred to Germans having decent equipment, which they kind of did. A lot of it broke down, quite frankly. But yes, they said Nazis all the time. You're going to encounter Nazis, and the people who play as Germans because, well, they didn't say Germans. They said people play as Nazis, because they've got some kind. They like the Nazis, or they may be a Nazi still. And that is absolutely, utterly ridiculous. It just showed how inept, how unresearched, how pathetic, really, the amount of effort they had put into that video, and they just didn't seem to care if they were offending historical war gamers like yourself or not. It was a bonkers video. To suggest that I've got a German World War II army, I might be as fat as Hermann Goering, but fuck me, I am nowhere near. You can get someone who's further away from National Socialism than me. Likewise, I've got a Russian army. I'm not a communist by any stretch of the imagination. They didn't bring up communism. They didn't bring up how brutal the communists were in Russia, in China. They didn't say if you had like a US Vietnamese army, then, or a North Vietnamese, well, any army in Vietnam, basically. That was just an awful conflict. The British, I'm not saying that, British in history have been, especially in India with, Amritsar, for example, if you've got a British army from that time period, you must be, the most, the most awful, racist, kind of imperialist going kind of thing. But you're not, I'm speaking to all these historical gamers. We're not. And I'm sure I speak for other historical gamers, we play historical games because it happened. I'm interested in history, obviously. The nuances of various conflicts, alliances, the way battles were fought, tactics used, how campaigns were fought, why one side was victorious, why one side lost. I'll take, sorry, America, I'll take the American Civil War as an example. It was a war fought, well, I don't want to go into too much detail why it was fought. Slavery was at the core of the reasons why it was fought. The North wanted to eradicate slavery. The South wanted to uphold their rights to make their own decisions. They weren't exactly saying we wanted to keep slavery. They needed to keep slavery, basically, for a short period of time, in my opinion, until they progressively changed the way they, the way they farmed, basically. It was an agrarian culture in the South as opposed to industrial culture in the North. Factories versus cotton fields. That's at its most basic level. Do people who collect Confederate armies, do they advocate slavery? Oh, fucking hell no. Jesus Christ, no. No way. Do they collect it because it was almost like a lost hope, the Confederacy? There's the David and Goliath kind of aspect of wargaming as well, where even Germany, the last days of Germany, the writing was on the wall. people who collect German armies that fought in Berlin, miniatures of children with weapons, old people with weapons. Do they advocate that? No, it's history. It happened. Let's have a war game using those kind of units, how they fought, how they moved, how they, we don't have to agree with why they did things. The lump of metal is not the same as the person who, 70, 80 years ago did that kind of thing. I play my favourite war game in the world is Wings of Glory. It's a fighter aircraft. Well, you can use bombers and dive bombs or whatever. It's an aircraft. I knew it's a simulator. It's not a simulator. It's a war game. And I have a representation of Hermann Goering's Fokker D7 from World War One. Does that mean when I'm over on the table, doesn't mean I'm dressed as a transvestite taking heroin? Not all the time. I've just shot myself. Right. No, of course not. You're not. That's not the way it works. Likewise, Midwinter Miniatures, when you're playing as an orc, do you paint your skin green? Do you sharpen your teeth? Do you eat raw flesh? And do you grow mushrooms out your own shit? I mean, you might do, for all I know. You're not an orc when you're playing as an orc. It's as ridiculous as thinking that way. If you play as a World War II German player, you're not a Nazi. But for some reason, Midwinter Miniatures has brought out this video, and that's what they're claiming. It's ridiculous. It's utterly bonkers. It really is. And yeah, I've left a message. I've had a few likes for it, I think. Not many. I'm not bothered about if people like it or not. I've had a reply. I haven't even. What did I? Yes, I've viewed the reply. Not from Midwinter Miniatures. I think they've. I don't know whether they're bothered about replies. I think there's an element they've done that for clickbait, kind of raise controversy, get the name out there a little bit more. Maybe. I hope it doesn't work in that way. I'm considering unsubscribing from them. I've never been a patron of any YouTube channel. Personally, I don't think you should get paid for YouTube content. I think, I've seen channels come and go because they rely on, YouTube stuff. And I've always laughed me back off. Basically, if I post on YouTube, I'm not bothered whether people like it or not. I'm not bothered how many subscriptions I get, how many ticks it gets or anything like that. I don't even think I have comments on because I'm not really bothered about whether people even post to say, "Oh, nice one," or "I agree with you," or with people disagree with me. I'm not entirely sorry about this. I've just got an alarm there. It's 2:00. I need to take a night off for a dodgy eye. Yeah, it's just. I kind of ended my comment with, I hope either A, you just don't make any more historical videos on your channel, or B, you go away and you do proper research, or at least a little bit of research, let's be honest. Play some games of bolt action, play against other players who, play bolt action. I mean, I'd even argue that bolt action's all that popular. I think it is in the US. I think in the US it's really, really popular as the historical alternative to 40k fantasy or Age of Sigmar. In the UK, I think we've got a much broader range of games. Bolt action was very popular, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I would say. I think the popularity has died down. There's a lot more, I think, Black Powder players because of Warlord Games, the Epic range. I think Black Powder's probably become quite popular. Hail Caesar, I'd say a few people play. Saga, very popular. Line Rampant, to a certain extent, popular. Channels I watch on YouTube, they play those games I've just mentioned. Groups that I follow on Facebook and wargame groups that I'd say I used to go to now. I've never been in a wargame group for about a year at least. But I follow what people play, what people paint. Yeah, 40k, and I'd say 40k is number one out there. Age of Sigmar, probably second. Yeah, fair enough. And then the historical stuff. Like I say, you've got those games. Star Wars X-Wing was very popular 4 or 5 years ago. Barely hear it now. Blood Bowl, decent game. Hear it now and again. There's a lot of different games, different war games, different periods, different styles. Sci-fi, fantasy, historical. So I would argue ball action in Britain, certainly my part, neck of the woods, northeast England, isn't the most popular historical game. But yeah, if you're going to make videos and talk as if you were an expert, the way that Midwinter Minis did, my God, you've got to do your research. And like I say, did they do it for clickbait responses, to gain a bit more popularity, notoriety, maybes? And like I say, I would hope it hasn't worked out for them. I turned off notifications about any, replies or anything to my comments. I don't know who else has responded to it. I've seen Seventh Son, I think today or yesterday, has posted a video or something about why I play historicals, and I wonder, I haven't watched it yet. I've got it on my watch later playlist, which I watch later when I can see the TV properly when it's darker. It's a bit light at the moment. If I watch the TV, it's just like a grey screen thing during the day. On the night, I can see better, obviously. So watch later. I don't know if that's in response. It may be. And this is kind of, my response to that video as well. And this is, it's the first time I've ever responded to any video on YouTube, I think. Should maybe do it more often. I know I've got, half a dozen subscribers, if that. If you want to share it, share it. If not, yeah, fair dues. Yeah. It was the level of ridiculousness was just so much that, I just had to tell them and get this out there as well. Yeah, either A, don't do it again, Midwinter. Stick to what you know, or if you are genuinely interested in historical gaming, go about it a better way. Don't release another video until you have done proper research, played a few games, till you are better educated at it. Be like me talking about makeup. Oh yeah, just wax some blush on or something like that, and if you wear red lipstick, you're a fucking prostitute. That's as ridiculous as saying people who play historical war games, they're Nazis. Ridiculous. So yeah, ciao for now, folks. I will see you when I see you.